Welcome to WANcast, where we celebrate the voices, stories, and impact of women in the affordable housing industry and beyond. Contessa Archer is here to host the dynamic duo leading the Minnesota WAN chapter, Christina Rick Lucas and Victoria Yepes. This episode highlights how these two inspiring leaders, who like other WAN leadership, have balanced building a thriving community for women while working demanding full-time jobs in the affordable housing industry. Christina, Vice President of the chapter, is a seasoned attorney with Winthrop and Weinstein in Minneapolis. Her focus on construction and real estate litigation, especially Year 15 issues, has allowed her to tackle complex challenges while championing women in the traditionally male-dominated field. Victoria, the chapter's president, brings her entrepreneurial expertise as the founder of VY Enterprise, a sustainable, affordable housing development firm. With over a decade of experience in commercial real estate, property management, and affordable housing development, Victoria has a passion for empowering women to break barriers and collaborate meaningfully in this space. Together, they've harnessed the power of WAN's national network, growing the Minnesota chapter into a robust community of over 300 members. Their grassroots effort, focus on membership, and dedication to building connections have inspired a movement within their state and beyond. In this episode, they share the challenges they've faced, the strategies for fostering collaboration, and their vision for expanding the chapter's impact across Minnesota. Their leadership shines as they discuss how WAN has become a beacon for women in affordable housing, helping them navigate career, build confidence, and create meaningful change. So sit back and join us as we celebrate the incredible work of Christina, Victoria, and the Minnesota chapter of WAN.
Victoria, Christina, thank you for joining today. I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about the Minnesota WAN chapter. How are we doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Yes, doing really well. Thank you so much for taking the time, Contessa.
Absolutely. So Victoria and Christina, you guys are president and vice president of the Minnesota WAN chapter. Do you guys mind just going through quickly who you are, what you do within the affordable housing space, and how WAN has helped or kind of advanced your perspective and network within the affordable housing world?
I'm Christina Rick Lucas. I am an attorney with Winthrop and Weinstein in Minneapolis. Winthrop does a lot of affordable housing, finance and development work as a firm, but myself, I'm actually a litigator. I do construction and real estate litigation, and I have a focus on Year 15 issues. So I work with a lot of affordable housing developers, both on the construction side and on resolving Year 15 problems that they face. So I got involved with WAN. I actually saw a Dominion post on LinkedIn about National WAN. And went to explore what that was about and discovered that National WAN was looking to start chapters in other states, and there was not one in Minnesota yet. So I reached out to National WAN and we kind of kicked it off from there. It's been really a great experience for me because of the work I do, I'm kind of siloed. So I didn't have a lot of opportunities to meet a lot of other women in this space, particularly on the litigation side. It tends to be very male dominated. So it's been really fun for me to get to know so many other awesome women working in all different aspects of the affordable housing industry.
So mine is a little different. I am the founder and president of VY Enterprise, a newly formed affordable sustainable housing development firm here in Minnesota. So our focus is obviously, we've been kind of heavily focused in the Twin Cities, but are starting to kind of branch out into greater Minnesota and eventually would like to take it national. So I guess my background is just really in kind of commercial real estate acquisitions and also property management, managing affordable housing and just different type of affordable housing structures as far as like PSA, permanent supportive housing units and others, and just general occupancy affordable housing throughout Minneapolis. I had a property management company that I did end up kind of taking a stop on towards the end of 2019 due to having my third kid. So then that kind of just, I kind of branched and just fell into the affordable housing pool. I think jumping in, not knowing how deep it was. and now I'm here. I mean, it's definitely a challenging space. There's many variables all the time, but I love it. So we're new as of mid-2022. And I would say just throughout my real estate experience in many different aspects is that, it's just very male dominated. I started over 10 years ago now, and just being in rooms, and I'd be the only woman in the room, or especially really the only woman of color in the room too. So it's very nice to be around other women in the space. And it's also very nice to collaborate and work with other women as we think differently and we work a little bit differently as well. So Juan, Diana Diste, she was the former president, and she kind of brought me in, and I was like, sure, why not? I love the idea of creating a Minnesota chapter connected to a national chapter and bringing that here to Minnesota, where we create a space for women to collaborate, get together, network, and work together. And then in addition to that, having that presence on a national level is helpful. So some of the benefits I've had from being a part of Juan is just honestly, really, I would say it's the network, being around amazing women from all different areas and sectors within the affordable housing space as we're learning and building capacity. It's helpful, and also it's inspiring. So absolutely love it. And we're happy to be here and continue moving this Minnesota chapter forward.
Absolutely. And I think one of the greatest parts about the Minnesota chapter is you guys were really a part of, we have different cohorts of chapters. And I know a lot of folks have heard me personally say the word cohort with my involvement on the membership side of things. But Minnesota, your chapter was really a part of the second cohort that was building off of a foundation of really strong existing women's affordable housing chapters that actually some had existed prior to National One even existing, particularly Atlanta. And so what types of things, and we'll get more into your guys' board because I've just seen it expand so much and I'm so proud of my home state. But what types of things are you guys taking away from the collaboration, both with kind of existing longer term chapters and other new chapters that are entering this space as a part of the leadership on the board?
It's been great to have the structure from National One to really help us get the chapter off the ground. Having that framework in place, those kind of like the guideposts to help us figure out how to put a board together. This is the first board that I've served on. So I didn't come into this with a bunch of board experience. I've never started a nonprofit. And I think that's probably true for most of us on the board. So having all of the help from National, just the direction to help us figure out what are we looking for in a board? How do we put one together? What do we need to do to organize ourselves as a nonprofit? What are the things we should be thinking about to grow our membership? All of those things has been really helpful. And then in terms of being able to kind of leverage the relationships with National, I think that is also hugely important because it really does distinguish what we're doing here with Swan from some other, I think, more local real estate oriented organizations. And at least for me in my career, the work that I do, I tend to work very nationally. And so my ability to expand my network on a national level is hugely beneficial for me from a business development perspective.
Thank you. I think that's really insightful. And that's one of the reasons that National One has been so proud of all the chapters and the various collaborations is really that type of expansion and ability to leverage those networks, both within your state, obviously, but also relying on a wider national network as well that really does focus on affordable. So, Victoria, I'll pass this question over to you. Since you've entered into your time as president on the board, what are the goals for the Minnesota chapter over the next, I'll call year, few years, whatever you'd like to highlight here?
Well, our number one goal is to continue getting organized. As you know, as Christina was mentioning, that not many of us on the board were familiar with forming a nonprofit or even just the formalities of what a board should look like. So I know that there's been a lot of different classes that Juan Nationals offered that have been very insightful and helpful in us forming the board as well as just getting organized. So I think one of our goals is to continue getting organized and utilizing the different resources that Juan National provides, one being the Teams folder and the Teams folders to organize things. Just, I think part of what we're trying to also do as we're building this up is to make sure that it can be passed on to the next and in a very seamless way. Another big goal for us, which we actually did have our first board retreat just about a month ago, and it went very, very well. We all got together and we kind of sat down and talked through some of our goals. And we worked through our WAN Minnesota chapter's mission statement and our vision statement as well. And just kind of coming together to really distinguish what WAN Minnesota is and how it's different from the other organizations that are here, such as, Wired Up and whatnot. So I would say that, we feel we got that done. And then, collectively, we want to be able to annually present the different events that we're going to have. We're talking about doing some lunch and learns, virtual options for different people, to kind of get engaged and learn different things that are associated with the affordable housing space. So I think part of what we're trying to do overall at a high level is just really get organized, be able to present that organization and also our vision and our mission with our local members, continue to grow our membership base here in Minnesota, eventually expand outside of just the Twin Cities as well, because there are other greater Minnesota options that we kind of see. There's Rochester, there's, other larger spaces too that we think that we could also engage with and, collaborate with other women there as well. And then obviously just kind of be able to articulate what the national values are and be able to help them engage on a national level too with the different events that are taking place. And then just being able to get out all of our events, ahead of time, beginning of the year, and just so people can have something to look forward to as far as what being a part of Minnesota WAN is.
Absolutely. And Christina, just following up on that, those are all very relatable goals that I think a lot of other chapters and chapters that may be especially new coming through are going to be focused on over the next few years. I know you were a part of the founding board or founding group that was working to really establish WAN within Minnesota. What are some of the things that you're most proud of seeing in the progress that the board and the chapter has made since 2022?
The board that we've put together, I'm super proud of that. We have 9 amazing women on it right now who are all working together and working really hard to create this into a real force here in Minnesota and on the national level. I'm really proud at how we've grown our membership. I think we're currently up to, our mailing list anyways, has almost 300 women on it, which is pretty phenomenal. The excitement, the response that we've received here has been really astounding. It's been really fun to see so many women get so excited about being able to collaborate and network with other women in this space. And I'm really proud of all of us for all of the work that we've put in and that, we've gotten to this point and we're still pushing forward. And, like Victoria mentioned, we just had our board retreat and it was such a great experience. I think we have a lot of really solid goals that we've set out for ourselves. And I'm looking forward to us implementing those over the next year.
That's great. I was reviewing the website for Minnesota WAN, and it was crazy to your point there that the board has expanded, I think, to 9 members. I counted on the website. One of the things that we try to help at the national level with is really helping to manage board relations and making sure that everyone's voice is heard and the responsibilities are shared equally. How has the board expansion helped make sure that the Minnesota chapter can move forward?
I think we work better in numbers. And sometimes that can also be a disadvantage, right? If people aren't collaborating effectively. However, all of us coming together with even just from relatable but different industries have just been so, I can't even express like how unified it's been and how we all kind of collectively come in and really just get one voice. And we really are all centered around the same thing, really just enhancing, women in this space and really helping them develop and really increase their capacity in all aspects, really. So I think that overall, it's been really great to have our board expand and have all the different women's perspectives, but we also do get things done. And we, it's like when one person can't, the other person picks it up, and it's just absolutely phenomenal and really great. And I think, and then we're all very understanding because we understand how busy our lives are. So I can't name one conflict that there's been or one issue that we haven't been able to resolve it right away. It just, in general, we're just all on it. And so I think part of our successes have just been, just meeting regularly. And we also did create kind of board liaisons within each committee so that we also are able to kind of be able to understand what's happening at the committee level and bring that into the board. And then we also created team leads within each committee too, so that they're making sure the committees are being led effectively. Again, we're just kind of creatively creating this structure that we don't necessarily know fully, but we're kind of forming it as we go. And also with National's help, it's just been so helpful in us forming how to just make this move more seamlessly and just so that everyone's voices are heard, even at the committee levels. And I think that's the coming from the board liaisons, hey, this committee is having these issues, or these are the things that are working out well. And then when that comes to the board, and then we're like, okay, so we're all interconnected. And I think that's really what it is. And I think we're kind of trying to work as almost in a sense of an enterprise, and so that we are hearing what's going on, even at the committee level, right? And then the committees are hearing, we're hearing what's going on at the member level, right? So being able to really just make sure that we are hearing all those things and that they're all coming into the board so that we all know what's going on and that we all can effectively create solutions when they need to be created and solve some problems that arise. But for the most part, like we've just been really good at that and we haven't had any issues.
I would echo what Victoria said. It's actually been really easy so far.
Yeah.
Some of us knew each other before. Not all of us did, or, knew a couple people on the board, but we've all gotten to know each other and we've just worked together really well. And I think having a larger board has actually been really beneficial because, we all have full-time jobs and this is a volunteer position, and being able to spread out some of the responsibilities has, I think, really helped us all be able to continue to be involved and stay involved because it's lessened the commitment for each one of us a little bit.
Absolutely. And I also would just say, I think your board exemplifies Minnesota nice better than anybody. So we cannot forget that. Well, that's fantastic, guys. And I know those board relations really start with the example that their leadership really sets for them. And so I just applaud the two of you for the work that you're doing. I've had such a privilege watching you guys grow and get all those folks involved because it really is an ecosystem within Minnesota. And I think one of the cool things that I find interesting about your board and how you've structured it is there are so many people in different roles and different parts of what I like to call the affordable housing ecosystem, which I think allows, to push and pull in certain areas and people to step up and just kind of diversify the skill set that the board members really have coming to the table. One of the things that I do want to talk about for Minnesota WAN is how has your experience with WAN, both, maybe as a board member, I don't know if either of you have served in other leadership capacities with other real estate organizations, but how has WAN differed from other local real estate groups within the Minnesota atmosphere?
I would say, and being connected to WAN National has been, that's just right off top massively. It's different. So I think that having the connection to WAN National and being able to have a national network is just in itself probably one of the most distinguishable things about WAN Minnesota. In addition to that, some of the other organizations that are here in Minnesota they're not as organized, I wouldn't say, and not that they're not organized, but they're not as membership based, or, you don't necessarily feel like a member. It's more, there's events, you sign up and, you don't make it, you don't make it. But, I feel like we're really trying to create more of a warm, real connected environment where people really do feel like members. And a good example of this, I think, too, is I ran into a woman in Missouri and we were connecting and just talking about our experiences in the affordable housing space and what we do. And then WAN came up. And of course, she was a part of another WAN chapter. And so immediately you could just see the connection deepen, and it's almost like being a part of a sorority or something where it's just like, oh, you're WAN, I'm WAN too. And immediately it's like, well, now we need to connect, and it's another way to really like connect with people, especially when you just meet someone, from a different state. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So, that's very different as opposed to some local organizations that are here in Minnesota that are doing maybe similar things to some degree. And then, again, like part of our board retreat was also just really focusing on what does distinguish us from the other local chapters. And that's kind of where we were like, we also wanted to, one of our things that I didn't mention was we want to engage with youth and we want to start getting them engaged in the real estate space at an early age. So that's kind of one of our goals too, which is also very different. I didn't even know what a developer fully was until a few years ago. So and that's kind of sad considering I've been in the real estate space for so many years. So it's just, I think that sometimes there's roles and different opportunities that people don't know exist, and especially for women. And I think seeing women and being able to bring that to different schools on different levels, whether it's high school or colleges, and show them, hey, like this is something that you could do, and this is the role that exists, and it's motivational, and it inspires people to do things and to also open up their horizon. Sometimes you can't really be what you can't see. Sometimes, you don't know that that's even an option. So I think that's also very different. In addition to, we're going to also add in some lunch and learns and things like that. And as we grow and as we get more organized, we're continuing to really kind of, again, just fill in and really collaboratively with our members too, because it's important that we take into account their voices as well. But we really are continuing to really just kind of better define that. So it's a continual process. It's not like we have it all set up right here, right now, but we're getting there. And I think that's really what's important.
I love your focus on calling out exposure at a young age to really understand what real estate development is, what is kind of the path or all the different paths within the real estate umbrellas, and then even honing it down further for an affordability exposure. I know you guys are aware and our listeners are aware on this podcast, but we're trying to do so much work to expose women and our networks, our younger networks, to what affordable housing really is. And I think we have a unique opportunity, and I'm sure you two align with this as well, where our space really is where margin meets mission. And there's not a lot of industries where those two components really merge. And I know, I wake up every day and we can be frustrated, and we're dealing with boards and nonprofits and getting deals closed because I'm on the developer side. And at least I can wake up every day and say, if I don't go and do our job today, there are people who aren't going to have housing. And that just wakes you up. And I've had such a unique experience kind of exposing that to younger folks and making them aware that there is this industry that is really focused on that. Within your membership base, you guys have said on the mailing list, there's over 300 people. What types of strategies have you used to expand your membership base while also diversifying your membership base from, multiple different angles? Obviously, I'd be interested on your guys' feedback there.
So far, the way that we have grown our membership has really been through leveraging the members that we have. So this really started as a very kind of grassroots effort. We put together our very first kickoff event, which was probably about a year before we really kind of got ourselves organized enough to get going, putting together a board. We really just kind of reached out to people we knew and asked them to send us names or forward the invitation to people that they knew. And it was really just kind of a domino effect of everybody who would get the invitation would forward it on to other women that they knew who might be interested. And even at our kickoff event, I think we had, I want to say around 70 women attend, and we had dozens more reach out to us and say that they were really excited about the prospect of a Minnesota chapter getting going. So I think every time we have events, we're still doing that, right? Like we send out invitations and it's very open-ended. Please forward on to your network, anyone else who might be interested. We're posting on LinkedIn. We had a booth last year at the Affordable Housing Summit. So we're trying to get some exposure for the chapter, let people know we're here. But honestly, most of it's just, I think, been a real grassroots effort of people reaching out to other women that they know, and those women in turn reaching out to other women that they know. And, in that way, we've already got, I think we're slightly under 300, but we're cruising right along.
We don't audit, don't worry.
We're making up numbers. We have 1 million.
Sounds like a real developer here, so that's great. That's what we're supposed to do. Well, that's great. And I think just that word of mouth is so strong. And it was funny at the beginning of this discussion, you had shared that you found Juan through LinkedIn when we were really on the national level trying to get out there and utilizing social media and multiple other networks. But word of mouth is exceptionally strong. And I just am so impressed with your guys' amount of women, men, allies, whoever makes up your membership base, that growth from 2022 to now is absolutely phenomenal. Well, I know we're coming up on time here for our time together. And so I always like this question because I've heard it on some of the other podcasts, and I want to make sure both of you have the time to answer. So, Christina, I'll start with you, and then Victoria, you can close us out. But what types of advice, both from a career perspective and starting and maintaining a chapter, would you have for our listener base?
I would encourage people to really look for those people in your life who can serve as mentors and supporters of you. It's really important, I think, to have people who can help you along in your career by offering you advice, introducing you to people, showing you how it's done. The thing about being a lawyer is that you learn how to be a good lawyer by observing and by doing. You absolutely need a mentor in that space to show you how to navigate this career. Like many jobs, particularly in like the real estate and finance worlds, law is also very male dominated. And so trying to find good female role models and people who can kind of show you how they have forged a path as a woman in this job, that's been hugely valuable to me. And it's something that I am really mindful about doing with younger women behind me, right? I think it's super important for us to pull each other along. And so, part of like getting this chapter going was an effort for me to really try to broaden my network and broaden the community of women that I could turn to help me as I'm pushing forward in this career. I do work in the construction space, also not a ton of women. And so just trying to really expand my network. And I know that sounds very cliche, but that's huge for career development. I think all of us are constantly looking for other avenues of support, other ways that we can learn and grow. And building your network up is, I think, one of the best ways to do that. And so in terms of like advice for getting a chapter started, I would say just do it. Reach out to everybody you know. You might be surprised how many people will be interested in doing something like that. And, many hands make light work, as they say. Getting people involved so that you can kind of spread out some of that work is really helpful as well. And you get the added benefit of getting to know a lot of people that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have had an opportunity to have in your circle.
Absolutely. That was a big question and you handled it. The transition, everything about that was phenomenal. Victoria, what would you say on those two fronts?
Really, I'd say it sums up in one word for me. And right when you said it, it just popped in my mind, and it's balance. I think that if I was giving somebody who's looking for, in general in life, I think there's this internal and external balance that just needs to be had. And I think being a woman comes with so many roles. There's so many things. There's so much external forces. There's a lot of, there's pay gaps. There's, hey, you may or may not have children, or, you have family matters. And, and in addition to that, you add work to it. I mean, it can be a lot. And I think that if I was giving advice to somebody on a career side, it would be you really need to maintain balance and making sure that you're taking care of yourself. If you're not okay, you can't be okay to do anything else. And I know I've struggled with that. So if I were to give that, it would definitely be balance. And even on the board side, I would also say it's the same thing too. If you're looking to start a board, you need to be able to maintain the balance of all the other obligations that you do have. If you're super effective in maybe one area or the other's lacking, you want to make sure that you're really giving your all in whatever it is you want to take on so that you can do it with excellence. So I think that's really mine. It's pretty simple. And I would just say, that if I was talking to my daughters and, which I have 3 of them, I would really want to see that their life is full. And I feel like, that they're enjoying the work they do. And I think that's huge too. You need to really enjoy what you do in life, so that it doesn't feel like work, but, just not at the expense of your internal state of mind and your internal state of being. And that's very important for me. And our board has grown. I'm so happy to be a part of all these amazing women and that have come together to really just kind of create something great here in Minnesota that is connected to a national presence. And I can see sometimes too, we're all, hey, we're a little tight on time where things happen and, and I think that we all kind of step in where we can't, where others can't, which is beautiful to see that happen in just such a collaborative effort. But for the most part, it's, again, just maintaining balance. And I, again, like making sure that we're okay on the inside.
Absolutely. That was beautiful, you guys. Thank you. So Victoria, Christina, Thank you again for joining the WANcast today and sharing the experience both as leaders at the Minnesota chapter and what you guys are doing on the local landscape. Just appreciate your time. And our WANcast network has lots of listeners, so please don't be surprised if anyone reaches out to talk to the two of you. But from us at National WAN, we appreciate everything you guys do on the local level with getting this chapter up and going. And we look forward to seeing you guys all continue to prosper.
Thank you, Katessa.
Thank you so much, Katessa.